you think that you already know how to scale the business, but what do you want to scale the business with a bunch of people that didn't understand your process, the main core values of your company? So I think before you even start thinking of scaling, just focus in developing those people within your company with a great culture that is not going to fail you.
Welcome to the Base Coat Brainiac podcast. My name is Austin Hauser. I am Chief Brainiac over here at Base Coat Marketing. And listen, if you own a painting business and you're tuning in right now, you're in the right place. So today, I have the pleasure of introducing Israel with West Pro & Sons Painting located out of Kennewick, Washington. And he actually reached out the other day and had some interesting insights on the industry and some education that he wanted to share here. And I felt like it was necessary to bring him on to have a conversation with us. So Israel, first of all, I know as any business owner, you are a busy man. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to help provide some value to our audience.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to me meeting you. I've seen some of your podcasts, so to me, it's an honor to be in your podcast.
Well, that means a lot. I hope we can pass that along to everybody else tuning in here. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Israel, I don't know a whole lot about you, and I'm sure most of our audience doesn't either. So why don't you just give us a quick rundown? What's your story? How did you get here today?
Sure. Well, my story started obviously I was born in Mexico. I was brought to the States when I was young by my mom and my stepdad. Grew up basically in California, Paso Robles, California, the Central Coast, beautiful area. I started in construction when I was around 17 years old and doing all kinds of stuff in construction, love construction. I knew that's what I wanted to be. Started framing, doing, like I said, all kinds of stuff. And then by accident, I started working with the painters. And I did that for 9 months. And I knew it wasn't for me. And honestly, the only reason that discouraged me to work with painters, I'm talking about back then, right? Not today.
Sure.
It was just a bunch of guys smoking weed and doing that kind of stuff, And
how far back in the day are we talking right now?
We're talking about 87, somewhere in there.
All right. I would argue that not much has changed, but
late 80s. I just wanted to send these problems back there, right?
Sure.
But anyway, I knew that was no wonder no one respects the painters, because everybody respects electricians. Everybody, if you were a finished carpenter, everybody used to see you oh my God, he knows his stuff. A lot of people had respect for those kind of trades. But for the painters, I kind of had the sense right away that nobody took him seriously, And I'm oh, maybe that's the reason, that's why. So I decided, I'm going to become a carpenter, a finished carpenter, because people respect them. So I started working, in finished carpentry. And eventually, working with general contractors, I worked with a whole bunch of general contractors doing pretty much everything in California. But anyway, got the time that I felt like I knew enough to help customers on my own. So I started a little company doing a handyman work, doing all kinds of stuff. Since I already knew pretty much how to do everything in construction, started a handy home services for my customers in California about 3 years. In 2006, then that's when I made the move to come to Washington, to this green state. And that's when I established West Pro & Sons Painting. And my idea of actually having a painting company was some on that line, I felt like a lot of customers still were not getting, the quality, the professionalism, from any other trades. So I felt like, you know what, I'm going to establish a company, a painting company, to serve my customers and provide a higher quality service, being professional, being honest, just provide a kind of service that you rarely see in the painting industry.
The baseline, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
For those customers that actually want something better. And I said, I'm going to try to a bit different in a way that I don't wear whites. I just wear normal clothes. My employees don't wear whites. To me, it's like the knowledge is not on their pants. It's up here, right?
That's right.
And I used to run companies and with painters, and I used to have them like at least once a month buy a couple pants. Like 3 days later, they were covered in caulking, covered in paint, and just seems like a lot of us think like if the more stuff that we got in our pants, the more professional we look. And I wasn't in agreement with that. I was like, if that truck is covered with paint all over, the tailgate, on the sides, there's painting running down the sides. It's like, I'm not going to hire that company to come and paint my house because that's pretty much what I'm going to get. Drips everywhere, right? So that's what I got the idea of, if I'm going to start a painting company, have to look clean, have to be professional, have to offer something different to my clients. And that was my philosophy, right? To start in a painting company, offering this kind of service to my customers. And obviously, on top of that, I wanted to be always transparent with my clients, always honest. I was like, in construction, there's a lot of stuff sometimes that happens that customers don't trust contractors. They think like, to me, it's like we heard it before, we've done it to ourselves, that build that kind of reputation. Of course, not everyone is like that, but there's a lot of in the industry, that we can improve on these things.
Well, I think you've nailed a very important point, and that is the fact that a lot of guys go out there and they look at, I don't know, larger organizations and how they operate, and they think that they need to do all these special things, right? Whether that's like automating the back end and having these touch points that are super fancy with different CRMs. And guys, at the end of the day, this industry has so much potential and so much opportunity. It doesn't take a lot of momentum to go from being a Chuck in a truck or a Dan in a van to having a painting company that it gets the job done. And that can just be as simple as showing up when you say you're going to show up, telling the truth, right? Being honest and fair, and just doing a good job. And I think a lot of guys just overlook that very simple fact that this isn't a super complicated industry. It's just been, worked on from the bottom up, and not many people have moved up from that bottom, rung of that ladder, if we want to use a pun there.
I think it's like I always like to say it. I think it's a mental thing, it's a mentality that you copy that from somebody, and then you don't try to improve on it. You try just to repeat the process. And if that guy is doing it, like I always say, some people do it the wrong way. There's so many ways to do it. There's no like a wrong way, but it could be a wrong way for me. I don't feel comfortable doing it that way. And I need to change it to where I show my personality, my true me, so I can feel comfortable. So I can, when I talk to my clients, the customers or my clients can feel me for who I am, honest. And I'm obviously at their place to help them with a problem, to solve a problem, give them a solution to something. A problem.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Israel, the one thing I'll mention there is just the fact that, your business is just a reflection of you. And I think that's another opportunity is when we look at a lot of these guys that go out there, they'll join, let's say, a coaching program. And those are great, right? I highly recommend everybody, if you're in a business operating or ownership role, you go get some sort of coach in place, whether that's, one person in a program or a community is even better. I love the power of perspective. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, but anytime you have a community that you can build yourself around, that allows you to identify, to your point, what way works best for you. Just because somebody tells you this is how they do it and it works well for them and it's generating them a bunch of money and they can sleep better at night, doesn't mean that strategy is going to resonate with you, which again, your business is just a reflection of you. So, I think it's really important that people understand that community, the power of education, and ultimately, identifying what relates best to you and your business and what helps you sleep best at night is ultimately the path that you need to proceed with.
I'm just going to add a little bit to what you were saying. A lot of times, I'm the kind of guy that like to go to those events, get more education, join groups, network groups, pay a seminar or whatever. You're in a marketing company. There's always a lot of strategies how to market your business, how to do this, how to sell more jobs, and all kinds. And a lot of it, they're great ideas. But if your strategy goes well with your personality, but maybe I'm forcing it on my own,
Oh, yeah.
So when I come back to my office, and then after seeing this great ideas and good information, I sit down with my guys, my sons, my employees, and I tell them that information is great and everything, but remember, we're serving humans, okay? So let's stick to the basics. Let's stick to the stuff that works. And we're serving another human, somebody that has feelings, has intelligence. We're not going to try to insult their intelligence by trying to display this knowledge that we have over them like they were idiots. We're going to use that information, but in a way that a human will take it. We'll feel like we care for them. We'll care for these things. We want to really help them. We really want to provide a good service. So when they pay this compensation for the work that we've done, they go, wow, I don't regret paying this much for this, because the experience, not only the painting, but the experience is great, that they don't have a way to regret it.
Look, I couldn't agree more. In this industry in particular, painting, you can only do so good of work, right? Like there comes to a point where diminishing returns hits pretty hard, where like you can only sand that wall and put so many coats on it before it looks as good as it's going to look. This industry, what's going to differentiate you from the next guy is the experience that you put that customer through. The experience, I like to say, there's a buddy of mine, Zach Kenny. He owns a company called ZK Painting, and he does something really unique. He like cleans the toilet of the customer's home before they leave each day. And it's just those little things that you can do that, again, we're not talking about like reinventing the wheel here. Just cleaning the customer's toilet if you use it before you leave for the end of the day, right?
Just common sense, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's that kind of stuff that can have a big impression.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's what I like. You own a marketing company. I'm sure you provide great information and value, and you try to help as much people as you can. But eventually people have to take it to their communities and implement it the way that they keep doing what they're good at, what they're best at. And that's serving their customers, serving their communities. Not every community is the same. We're all different, but it's like, that's what we're going to get the rewards. Providing a good quality service and making customers happy with the work that we're doing for them. And I just want to add this. In 20 years that I've been in business here, and by any means, I'm not bragging, but we haven't had one single customer mad or upset at us. And I always like to point this out. That doesn't mean that we haven't made mistakes, right? My guys have made huge mistakes, but honestly, those mistakes has turned those customers and my biggest fans. So it's how you fix those mistakes. How do you deal with those things, right?
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, it's I like to say, as business owners, as the leaders of other humans, we lead people that are going to make a mistake at some point or another. And I think it's important that we all recognize that, and the better that we can accept that component of running a business, and it's what makes it such a spiritual journey in a way, is the fact that the way you run your business is going to be completely different than the way that your competitor down the road runs their business, and the people they're managing and the way they manage them. Again, it's why your business is such a reflection of you personally. Mm-hmm. And the way that you manage those problems, I call them opportunities to learn, is what ultimately dictates whether or not you're going to repeat that in the future. Because, any problem's fine. I look at challenges and those opportunities to learn as something that we haven't encountered before, and that we're going to fix that. We're going to grow from it, as long as it doesn't happen again, right? And I think it just needs to be instilled in the culture that failure is okay. Because if it's not, that's when people get afraid and they cover stuff up, and it just opens up a can of worms, right?
Exactly. Yeah, totally agree with you. And like I always like to clarify, when I'm having painters and my little podcast that we have here, and I always like to clarify people to other painters. It says, don't misunderstand. We're not criticizing anybody. We're not saying that you're doing it the wrong way or we have a better system than you know. It's just this is a common problem that we see every day. When I talk to painters in my community, we all hurting from the same pain, from the same things. And then when I bring the question, so what do you think we should do in order to solve these issues, these problems, so they can stop happening? We just keep repeating them over and over. That's when we go back to the same mentality. Well, I don't know. It's like, this is how it is. It's how it always been. So, we just have to move forward, just find better ways to lower our price, I guess. And that's one of the things that, if you ask me, I spend so much energy trying to tell painters. It's like painting is got value, just like a phone, It's got good memory, little memory. I don't know, gigabytes, let's say 256 gigabytes. There's some with 500 gigabytes. And it depends on whatever the phone has, that's the value of it. So it's like the painting has value in it. I always use this analogy, say like, if a room costs $700 to paint, a common 10 by 10, 10 by 12 room, let's put it at $700. And you work by yourself or with a helper. And then they go like, well, I'm fast. I'm really fast at painting rooms, so I can do this like in an hour and a half. And for that reason, I can only charge $400. I mean, I still make money because I'm fast. I'm like, but the value to paint the room is $700. Why are you leaving $300 on the table? I mean, why are you punishing yourself for being good and being fast? Basically, that's what you're doing. You're punishing yourself and hurting other painters. So that mentality, that's what I'm talking about. There's so different mentalities that we just gotten stuck on our heads. And a lot of us, we cannot upgrade our rigs, because we never had enough money. We cannot open an office because we don't have enough money to pay an office, a building. So that's your first sign. Why do you don't have an office? Why cannot you upgrade your car, your truck, your equipment? Because I don't have enough money.
You don't have enough money. I love that phrase. It is the most antithesis phase or the phrase towards abundance, right? Like if we look at abundance and we look at scarcity, if you're gonna have that type of a mindset, that really just comes down to your point, which is a lack of confidence, and that comes from mindset. I've always said that success in life, whether it's personal or professional, it's 90% mindset, 10% skill. It's the 90% of believing that you can and you deserve it. And then the 10% is just learning how to get there. But that 90% is a mountain for most people because, if a customer is not happy, you screwed up one day, it's going to happen, right? It's not a matter of if, it's just when. It's how you handle that. And it's whether or not you feel like that one challenge was enough to break you down to the ground and you need to quit and go back to a 9-to-5 or just go do it on your own again, or whether you can accept the fact that challenges is part of life and the lowest standard of life is perfection because it doesn't exist, right? Exactly. It is that mindset that you need to instill in yourself in order to overcome those type of challenges. Price, to your point, being one of those. The one common trend that we've identified with all of our multi-7-figure clients is the fact that they have a higher average job size. They're just better at selling. That's all it comes down to. Exactly. The market definitely plays a role, but it also comes down to whether or not, again, you deserve it. You believe that you can do it. And if at the end of the day, if your prices are higher than the next guy, every single painter we work with says the exact same thing during onboarding. We are not the cheapest painter. We get it. We know that. You only want full interior, exterior repaints. We get that as well. But it's because we only work with the best of the best. And that's the common trend that we see across the board.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's like I said, one of the things that obviously we're in a free society. I'm not for like everybody should be on the same page. Obviously, there's rooms, but I mean, from $30 an hour to $100 an hour, there's companies in the same community, bidding jobs for like $100 an hour because they know their value, they know their numbers, and there's some other companies doing it for $30 an hour. I mean, that's too far apart.
Don't compete on price, guys. Compete on just about anything else but price. Price is the lowest standard. Look, I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are here. I know, look, you booked this podcast episode because you had a tight tie into the Hispanic community. And I know that you know a lot of guys out there in Washington State that have run into challenges around how to price their services and the confidence to sell that. And I for sure see that as a big issue in this industry. And I think part of the challenge here is the painting industry has two, maybe even three main things going against it when it comes down to price in particular. The first is seasonality, right? People aren't always thinking about painting their house. Right now, we're in early December. It's going to be slow until, let's say, about early February, mid-February, when those tax checks start to hit. The second is going to be simply the low barrier to entry. And that really actually creates two other issues. One is a number of competitors, right? If all you need is a paintbrush from Home Depot and the ability to drive a van somewhere, you can get into this industry. But also it opens up the door for the homeowner to decide to do their own DIY project. And I like to say that, like, in this industry, you are very much a selling prep service company, right? Like, most of your time goes into the prep and follow up. Like, the actual painting itself is, that takes time, and there's obviously the actual product itself involved there. But when you're selling that service, the homeowner is looking at it from that one standpoint of like, hey, how much is like this actually going to take you to put the paint on the wall? It's like, well, no, there's actually a lot more that goes into it than that. Yeah. If you want it done right. And I think that's where the sales process really comes into play.
I think so. And for that, you need a little bit education about it, And I feel like, especially coming from the Hispanic background, and what I was telling you earlier, I feel like we're a little behind on the Hispanic businesses, painters. I feel like we get in there. There's a lot of momentum going on with the PCA. There's they did one in Spanish in Anaheim recently.
Yes.
So a lot of my friends, I couldn't go, but I had something else on that same weekend. But I feel like there's a lot of people that are attending those events and they're getting educated and they're changing their ways. So there's a movement, there's a change coming. But I feel like we still got work to do. We're behind, so education is huge. First, to know exactly where your numbers are. That's something that takes experience and takes time, and being humble to ask around. And that's one of the other things, that's one of the other things in the industry. What I see in the past is very secretive. It's like nobody wants to tell you because you're going to steal my secrets. And then what is going to happen to me? He's going to go up and I'm going to go down. But I feel like that's just a mental thing. And I see that a lot. I was just talking this morning on our group. We have a referral network work locally. I go every Wednesday morning. I was just talking to one of them, and they're afraid of training people because then they're going to take, it's going to be my competition. They're going to take whatever I taught them, and then they're going to be my competition. And I'm like, no, but I feel like that's exactly what's hurting the industry because we're not teaching enough. I mean, the more we teach as leaders, more people are going to count on us. Another business is coming in. They're going to see us like somebody, a resource that they can come to me and ask questions. And that's my opportunity to educate them how much they need to charge. And that way, my market is going to be protected, and they're going to be protected, because if they don't know how to charge, which is being the problem, this guy that starts his business, starts from like, he was making $20 an hour as an employee. I said, well, I'm just going to ask for 30. Now I have a business. $10 should do it. there's no way, So us, the guys in the community with more experience, we should be more willing to take on these new businesses and give them a hand, because they're going to destroy the market and they're going to hurt us as well, even though we've been around for years. So I feel like the problem is that secrecy needs to stop on that industry, and any industry, construction in general. We need more collaboration. We need more, become more united and sharing. If you want to call them secrets, let's share our secrets.
Look, this all comes down to fear. And I would wrap it up to what's called the fear of uncertainty. Mm-hmm. And, in life, we all love the comfort that certainty brings us, right? Knowing that tomorrow the sun's going to come up, that you're going to have a house to sleep in, and that you're going to have money in your bank account to buy your family food, right? That feels good. It's nice and comfortable. But running a business is very uncertain. You don't know where your leads are going to come from. You don't know if you're going to have leads this month, or how you're going to pay your not only your own bank account, but your team's bank account. And whether or not some economic catastrophe is going to come and hit, and you're going to get completely wiped off the face of the earth. Like that, those are all plausible things, right? But I think that's the scarcity mindset behind that is what it shelters a lot of the education out there. And to your point, I do think that a lot of this is starting to come to light in this industry. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've been serving this industry since about 2008, so going on 16 years now. In that time frame, we've seen a dramatic change. The biggest changes we have seen have come since COVID. But in that time frame, we have seen like an organization like the PCA, which I highly recommend anybody listening in, go jump on the PCA. They are a great organization. We're going to be out in Fort Collins, Colorado in February. It's going to be a great event. But the reason that entire organization is so helpful is because they build a community. They put you in touch with other painters across the country. And for the most part, they are all great people willing to share value. And I am very much a value-driven individual. I believe wholeheartedly that if you put everything out there for the entire world to benefit from, and don't ask for or expect anything in return, it will come back to you in dividends. And that entire mindset of giving without expectation is extremely hard for a lot of people because they've just been pushed down. But if you start with that mindset, going back to mindset, not skill, of add value first, don't expect anything later, just continue giving, and then give some more. And that will all eventually come back. It's almost 100% guaranteed.
I believe it. And this is what brought me to your podcast, because I see some of your episodes, and bringing people, part of the PCA, probably be joining next year. I've been thinking about it, and know a lot of people involved in it. I know they bring a lot of value. I like that. And to your point, it's like, that's why we go to church, right? Because we need that motivation. We need that culture. We need that support from other members, right? And that's why we need the community from networking groups. And I feel like this is a great thing, like the PCA and other groups that are happening. I feel like those are the ones that are starting to change. And I think as we move forward, I think this is going to start happening more and more. I actually working to organize a group of painters here locally where we can have like 5 or 6 companies, like columns, and just get together at least once a month and just talk about our daily challenges, and hopefully we get to present, each meeting somebody gets to present, talk about more of the business and just to create this, what is the word? To be more united, with the community. And I feel like I'm great friends with those guys from Illusion Painting, Juan and Jose and many others in the industry. And we share a lot of things, back and forth ideas. So even on the Spanish side, I feel like that mentality is changing. We want to learn. And I think now this technology is presenting the opportunity to learn, to, you're in North Carolina, I'm over here in Washington. We can talk in real time. We do lives with a lot of these painters throughout the country. Recently I was very fortunate to be part of the Hispanic member for Sherwin. So we're trying to, help with this Acá Entre Pros program that was going to benefit a lot to the painters, Hispanic painters. So there's a great minds up there, they're great companies. And I'm just very fortunate that, for technology, because then I feel like in other times we wouldn't have this. And now there's no excuse. But like you said, we have to be humble. We have to be educated. And we're going to have to understand that it's not, if we want to get somewhere, it's not about how much knowledge I have about the painting itself. It's about a networking, how big of a net you create with being connected with different painters, different multi-million-dollar companies, maybe another company small, with a helper, just one guy. It's the same thing. We're trying to accomplish the same thing. Just pay your bills. You have 100 employees. You need to make a lot of money to pay the 100 employees, right? So it's just a different world. So this guy, a small company, only got one employee, doesn't need a whole bunch of work. But we're all trying to do it for the same reason, to make our lives better, to help our communities. And like you said, I'm always try to tell people this. Said, we cannot be takers. We came to this world. I mean, we found it, now whatever we have, it's great. But let's just don't take it. Try to add to it. So if we, like you said it, if we have this mentality where whatever we touch in life, if we just try to add, if you like it, just add a little more value, add to it. Don't just take and take and take. I feel like if everybody, adopt this mentality, our journey here in this world is not about just take whatever I can. It's you have some uniqueness in you. What is it? What is your mission? Just try to add more to it. Have others benefit from your existence.
Yeah, you need to shine your own light. And when we look at your network, there's a common phrase out there. Your net worth is your network, and it's really surrounding yourself with those people that inspire you, motivate you, who you want to become, whatever that is, right? As far as like scaling a business goes, when we look at all of the imposter syndrome and the confidence issues and the scarcity mindset out there that exists not only in the painting industry, right? This is just a business 101 kind of thing. If you're going to operate a business, you should expect this kind of shit. I'll tell you a quick story. I stayed in an Airbnb for about a week earlier this year with a guy who was about my age, worth about $150 million. And
Wow.
you know what his problems are? Same as all of ours. He was scared to get behind the camera on a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he is the most average, normal person I've ever met in my entire life. The people at the top are no different than the average Joe. And
it's just humans, right?
They're all humans, right? Yeah, we all bleed. And I think that's where, just getting over the mindset challenges of you starting a business, growing your network, and then giving as much as you possibly can. And I cannot emphasize this enough. Whenever I say give, it's not just give once and expect, or give once and look the other way. It is give, and appreciate the fact that you can give. It makes it so much easier, and it motivates you. It gets you excited to get out of bed each day. Guys, I mean, we give to the point where if you actually want to go copy our entire marketing strategy, just go on our website, basecoatmarketing.com/learn. We put all of our SOPs in there. You guys can go do exactly what we do just on your own. Like, it's to that point where I can't give any more than we're doing today. And if I find a way, I will. And that's the same mindset I want everybody else listening to this podcast to have, is the fact that it's come back in dividends. And I'm not talking about money. Money does not motivate me. I'm talking about the people that I get to work with. They are just incredible humans. Not only the people that I employ, but the network that I've built around me. These are some of the most fantastic people that I could ever possibly imagine being around. And it's only because I decided one day that I'm going to give everything I possibly can. And once you start doing that, knowing that your time is your most valuable asset, and if you're going to give that away, there's a lot of opportunity on the other side of that.
I think so. And like I said, like I mentioned before, what I think is stopping a lot of us in construction is the frustration of having this negative mentality of, I want to make a lot of money, but I don't want problems. People these days are nothing but problems. I hear this for a lot from general contractors. They have customers. Yeah, they would like to make a lot of money, but they don't want, or they're not willing to deal with those problems because those problems are too much. I get hired a lot to go and fix somebody else's problems. Sometimes even the customer doesn't want to talk to this JC or GC, right? General contractor. Then we get hired to go there, and when they send me this referral, they say this is the worst people. You can never please them in the world. No matter what you do, they're just never going to be happy. I normally take my kids with me, my sons. I got 2 sons. We go, I want them to see firsthand. We're there. Customers, sometimes they pull a chair by us, watching what we're doing, talking, telling us this, all the stories that happen with this company, why they're upset at them, why they don't like the work. We listen, and by the time we leave there, the job, they're giving us a hug, hugging my kids, my sons. I say kids but they're already over 20. So they give them a hug. They love my family. And they say, well, I don't know why they didn't send you guys to begin with, in the beginning. We'd avoid all this mess. And I like to ask my kids, it's like, do you see these people like a problematic, like they told us they were? They were like, no, they're like the nicest people. I was like, if they would have done those things to me, I'll probably be upset like they were. They're just humans. They want to pay some money. They want the best for their money, a good product, what they were not getting. So I jokingly tell a lot of companies, it's like, how come you always get the bad customers and I get all the good ones? And a lot of times I try to tell them, I say, why don't you just look into your company, look into your employees. Maybe you'll find that the customer is not a problem. How about if your people is the problem? You're not contributing to the solution, not bringing solutions to this customer. He already have problems. Now you're bringing more problems for this customer. Some of them, they're not humble enough to say yes. They go like, no, I don't think that's the case.
There's a book called Extreme Ownership. It's by a guy named Jocko Willink. He was part of like the SEAL Team 6 or whatever. And brilliant guy. And his whole concept about bringing what he learned in the military into the world of business, it holds a very powerful core value within our company, and that is extreme ownership. And the whole mindset behind that is you own everything in your world. And on the battlefield, if you decide to blame somebody else, like, hey, let's just put the analogy back in the painting world, like, hey, that customer just sucked, their expectations were too high, whatever. If you try to take that same mentality onto the battlefield, either you're going to die or your buddy next to you is going to get shot, right? No. You can't blame or point the finger anywhere else. You own everything in your world and then some. And we have the same mindset here. Everybody in the team is held up to that same core value. That is, even if somebody else on the team drops the ball, or another great example is the ball is always in our court. So if our customer or if our client is ever left wondering, if they have to wonder where we're at, or if they have to wonder for an update, that means we're failing. Like, our clients should never wonder. They should always be in constant communication with us. And we should always be informing them proactively, right? The same kind of mindset you need to have when you're dealing with painting walls, keeping that customer informed, making sure that they understand that they're happy at the end of the project, owning everything in your world, and then owning the problems that come along with that, even if those problems aren't yours. If you didn't start that problem, if it's a problem that arose because that customer is overly critical or whatever the problem is, right? Okay, well, that might have been a problem in your sales process, that they slipped through that you didn't actually want to work with them initially, but you took them on anyways. That's still your problem. Like, it's the entire mindset of I'm going to probably butcher this, but hard times create strong people create weak times, easy times creates weak people. I think we're in that like weak people phase right now with this whole Instagram culture of influencers. And to your point, they don't like to solve or have to deal with problems because they feel like that's not part of life when it actually is.
A reward comes from solving a problem, right? That's why in society, people that has the most money is because they provided a great service for society, right?
Solving the
They
biggest
solved
problems.
each problem.
Yep.
And so, I mean, like money is looking for those people. And I always tell people it's ideas what gives you money, right? Because it's not about, I already know that. It's not about working hard. Otherwise, I'll be a millionaire. It's not hard, working hard. It's you have to work hard of your ideas and your thinking, but not necessarily just don't think and go to work, because that's not the solution. This world tends to reward great ideas. Let's say like Facebook, you mentioned Instagram, and all those people, Amazon, they have great ideas. Look, all the money where they go. Elon Musk, those guys that have great brains, great ideas. They want to solve a problem for society, and look, money just comes their way. And in a small scale, I feel like everything starts by thinking. I mean, years ago, I think what really opened my eyes was this book that everybody knows, Think and Grow Rich.
Oh yeah.
Napoleon Hill.
Yep.
I think most people have read this book.
If you haven't, you need to go read it.
Yes. And I love the Bible. And I always tell people, seriously, the second book that I will put after the Bible is this book, because I feel like a lot of motivators these days, a lot of people that wrote their own books, they've been inspired by this book. So,
yes.
So you need to go to the source, right? And I mean, I read this book years ago, and every time, since the first time I read this book, I mean, I wasn't the same person. Never was the same already. It was this fire inside of me that I needed to do something. At the time, I didn't know what. I still don't know what, but I just feel the need of keep trying to help people, help myself and live a better life. But honestly, that book, that mentality, it just changed me, changed my life, and create this fire in me to always be hungry. And I adopted the saying, it's like my biggest hobby in life is learning. I'm always, my family knows this, my sons, my wife, they know that when I'm into something, I won't let it go until I got the grasp of it. Because I always feel hungry to learn. I feel like my life is going to be so short, or is so short, that I don't have enough time to just learn enough. So I'm learning whatever I can every single day.
I love that so much. That whole concept of getting 1% better each day is what I live by. And I think I would invite anybody else listening in to challenge themselves, to look at themselves yesterday and just be 1% better. You don't have to, and this goes back to the original point of the conversation. Like, yes, you can make a bunch of money by having a really great idea, like creating a social network back in the early 2000s, right? Like, that makes a lot of money, sure. But in this industry, in the professional painting industry, you don't have to have a great idea. You just need to be slightly above average. Like, we're not talking about anything crazy here, but if you believe you can, and you believe you deserve it, it's just a matter of learning how to go do that. And if you surround yourself with the people that have already been there, it tends to allow you to avoid the roadblocks and the potholes that everybody else hit, right? As Jason Phillips calls it, the dumb tax. You can avoid the dumb tax. It just allows you to go straight to the source, get what works. And again, the power of perspective. Find enough people that you don't listen to just one guy, because let's say that one guy does something and, maybe he runs his business like, I don't know, like a Nazi regime. And then there's somebody else that has a culture that they built and that their team's happy to work for them. Yes, both of those businesses can work. You can make the same amount of money, but you might prefer to, the culture route, right, over the regime route. So all of these concepts, to your point, go back to the very simple mindset shift of believing that you can, thinking that you deserve it, and then learning how to do it.
Exactly. No, I love it. I like that. And this is where I think the whole point of this conversation is to bring some value, to encourage other painters, other companies to like keep finding ways, reinvent yourself, not the industry, reinvent yourself, your company, find better ways that apply to you, that you can apply into your business. Always show your value as a person, not only the business, right? Because a lot of times when a customer wants to do business with you, with your business, doesn't want to do business because of your company-based code in marketing. It's about trust. If they feel good with you as a person, believe me, they're going to want to work with you. So I feel like you as a person have to have that principles, those belief system, this culture in your life that have to be anchored in your company. This is how I am, and this is what my company believes in. Recently, we had an event here. You probably know these guys from Nolan Group Consulting.
Mm-hmm.
They did a Entre Pros. They came in with us. We were part of it. And so when they went around asking people, how do you differentiate, from other companies? They were like probably 20 companies in the room, and everybody started doing their thing, And then when they came to me, I'm like, well, that's very easy, And maybe it sounded like I was going to say, because I'm better than everybody, right? No, I have a lot of experience, but I don't consider myself better than anybody. But I do believe since day one, since I started my company, I said, the only reason I know I'm different than everybody, and the reason I have a 100% satisfaction with my clients, it's because I run my company with God principles. I don't lie to people. I don't like to do something to people that I wouldn't like them doing it to me. So all those things I implemented in my life. That's how I am. Everybody that knows me that this guy right here, I don't have two faces. I'm only one. And then I try to take those beliefs, don't force them to people, but I put them in display on my company, how I handle my business. I haven't found one person that don't like that, to be honest. And believe me, I've been in project with people and drop some bunch of cash right by the bed, and I'm painting the master bedroom, right? Some jewelry right in the bathroom. When we're going to paint it, there's a lot of jewelry there. We're going to mask around the vanity. So I put it somewhere, put it on their bed, and then I tell them where I put them, So it's like, I'm there just for my compensation for whatever we agree. I don't know. You can have a whole bunch of money or value things around you. That doesn't bother me. That doesn't that's yours. My duty is to protect it, right?
So what you're describing right now is something that I think a lot of business owners miss, or they don't necessarily miss, but they fail to understand the importance of it. And that is a culture and the core values that your team lives by.
Mm-hmm.
So, anytime we have a company that we work with, one of the first questions we ask is, what are your core values? And that's what helps us determine how we need to speak to their audience, because we, as a marketing agency, we talk on behalf of other people, right? Like, we're an amplification device. So that's why we spend a couple hours getting to know every single one of our clients before we spin up any ad campaigns or a website or whatever. And part of that process is just making sure that, you guys understand what your values are, because you, as the business owner, again, just a reflection of you may have values that is like, hey, very basically, don't steal from people, tell the truth, and, do good work, whatever that is. And if your people that you're hiring don't know that, and eventually, if you want to grow your business big enough, you need to be able to delegate and work through people. Those values are what ultimately help translate that gap between you as the business owner, your reflection, and imparting that on the rest of the team, right?
And like backgrounds, maybe I wasn't raised up to be a big cusser, people that say bad words all the time in my conversation. I try to avoid that, and in Spanish, we never say bad words, and I mean, that's how I was raised by my mom. My younger brother and I, we never cuss or anything in Spanish. Now, when I learned the English, that was a different thing because I was at the gym playing basketball, with black guys,
Yeah.
So like I kind of adopted their vocabulary. When I married my wife, she's like, why do you speak like a black man? And it's like, well, they're the ones basically that I learned my English with, so I can play in basketball all the time. But, I focus on cleaning my language, my vocabulary, because it's like, I always tell people, any language is beautiful. And when you try to put too many words that they don't mean anything just to fill the void because you don't know what words you're supposed to be using there, it's like, no, you need to expand your vocabulary, clean it up, and be nice. But what I'm saying is, a lot of times you hire these guys that they were raised in a house where they yell, where they cuss, they do this noisy stuff. Or, the stealing is not too bad for them. Grabbing something that don't belong to them, maybe they think that, hey, I'm not getting paid enough, so if I get a chance, I'm going to steal this as a reward for myself. So you have to understand that there's a lot of backgrounds. People have different beliefs, So you as a business owner, if I have my values from, the door out, my employees can live their life however. I'm not going to change them. But when they're representing me, they have to understand my values in the company and the culture that we're trying to create and the service that we're providing to my customer. And if somebody doesn't comply or doesn't want to put it on their lives when they're on company's time, they cannot work for us.
Yeah,
they cannot work for us.
Yep.
Well, we're not forcing people to change their life, but if they want to be part of what we have, our culture, they have to implement. And it takes a little bit. I have some guys that, they were not taking like a roll of tape, a roll of paper, wasn't like a big deal. But I was like, it's not going to break me if you take a roll of tape or roll of paper. I said, but next time, ask me. You need anything? You need a sprayer? Ask me. Ask me to give it for free. And if I maybe that day I wanted to give it for free, and I'll give it to you. But I said, don't take anything, because it's not the tape that is going to hurt me. It's my trust in you. I won't be able to trust you to send you to one of my customers' property unless you understand how this works. I mean, I cannot trust you. And if I cannot trust you, we're going to have a hard time working together.
Yeah. Look, what you're describing is exactly what I think most people need to be focusing on as a business owner. And that is not the scarcity mindset of how much money can I make and where's my next business going to come from, but it is the differentiating factor of that customer experience, which starts with your team and understanding how you train that team and the core values that you stand behind. Because if your team is different enough where when they show up, they talk, they act, and they do just like you would expect them to do as a business owner, that you've already proven that your process, your personality sells, it works. Mm-hmm. All they need to do is replicate that. And that culture is where I think a lot of guys look at that. They're like, oh, that's nice to have. We can work on that later. Like that's just some corporate, jargon that we have out there that they used back in the 90s. No, culture is the essence of any company. And without that, it's impossible to grow a company. We have a philosophy here at Base Coat Marketing that, we keep track, we document anytime there's an issue. And when push comes to shove, I ask a very simple question. It is, you can keep doing what you're doing today, but you can't also have your job here. Pick one. Which one do you want? And it's a very simple black and white question, because at the end of the day, we have values. There's 5 of them. You got to keep it very simple that we hold all of our team to. And if they're failing in those values, it means they're failing the company. It means they're failing our clients, which is unacceptable. Right. And I think instilling that mindset in everybody on your team holds them accountable, makes sure that when they show up just like you.
And I think everybody wants to grow, wants to be professional. And if you have some values in your company and you try to, develop these guys, not only in how to paint, but also in life, So what you're doing to them, if they understand it, is they adding value to their experience. They're going to be worth more for somebody else, for your company, or if one day they decide to start another company from their own, they already know, and they're on a proven system, that something that people like. Everybody like to be respected, treated like with dignity. And I feel like people that don't want to be trained in these principles, I mean, human principles, right? Basically, they're always going to struggle in life. That's the fact. And going back to what I started, with painters back then doing things, I always try to encourage companies, if you have employees that they like to bully other coworkers, and that's why good painters or good workers leave you, because they try to tell you that they don't feel comfortable working in this environment, and you think you just brush it up like, you're just a weak-minded person. That's how it is over here. We take it like a man. So no, I mean, I see all the time, crews with loud music on a nice community. I'm not part of that company. I feel embarrassed just driving by and seeing that people yelling, music loud, and people yelling, things to other coworkers. I always use those scenarios to teach my employees. It's like, they don't think people are watching them. And remember, they have the van with a sign parked right in the street.
Yeah.
People from their windows are doing this. What's going on over there? I said, you know what? I will never call this company. So they said, you are representing that company. You are representing us. How you behave out there is going to determine the picture that these people are going to form on their heads about us. So you can listen to music comfortably. It's like, we don't come here to dance to a dance party. It's like, you can listen to music comfortably on the house, or one ear. I don't allow my guys to plug both of ears, because if an emergency, so you need to be able to hear the other guy yelling at you, right?
Yeah.
So, but don't make people uncomfortable, even like cussing inside the house. There's a lady in the back room, and you're like talking loud, cussing to your coworker, laughing loud. It's like, to me, that's embarrassing. That's something like I don't tolerate, and I try to educate my employees, because I feel like that's just doesn't look good. I mean,
Look,
I don't say that.
What you're describing is, if I go back to that 90-10, right? The 90% mindset, 10% skill, where most business owners focus most of their time and attention and training their teams on the 10% of skill. It's to make sure that they show up and they're following the SOPs, and that they, actually execute the production work well enough. But what they fail to actually invest the time into is training the people that are going to build the company. And that is where the 90% of the mindset comes from. I would challenge anybody to look at how much time they're investing into training their team. And if I had to guess, probably 90% of that would be going into the hard skills, and not the actual core values and the principles that you live by. For instance, our team, we have the skills, or the standards we live by and the standards we work by. The standards we live by are shit that has nothing to do with marketing. It has everything to do with, how you treat your mind, body, and relationships. That is very different than, focusing on how to build an ad campaign. But if I know my team is treating their family, their friends right, they're focusing on being healthier humans, typically that's going to, the output is going to parlay into a better output for the company as a whole. But I think the gap of understanding just how important culture and the skills, the soft skills that you can't necessarily interview for, right, is so damn important.
Exactly. Yeah, and like we've been discussing throughout this podcast, is about the mindset. And now, hopefully, with all these things that we touched, a lot of people understand, like, well, I actually believe that this is okay, like loud music, or lying or stealing. I don't have a problem with that. Well, that's the wrong mindset to have. And those are the same things that I think we're trying to change. We're trying to bring light to people and say, listen, nobody likes to be lied to. Even a liar doesn't like to be lied to, right?
That's right.
A thief, I'm pretty sure, steals, but when somebody steals from them, he wouldn't like it. So that just show you right there. It's like those things people just don't like. And you need to figure it out. You already figured out how to paint, what equipment to use. You think that you already know how to scale the business. But what do you want to scale the business with a bunch of people that they don't understand your process, the main core values of your company? So I think before you even start thinking of scaling to more, like crews, just focus in developing those people within your company with a great culture that is not going to fail you. So if you grow slower, it's going to be like a foundation, really rock solid, right? And then from there, once you get the right people trained, then you can scale it up. Because I think that's part of a lot of companies failing. They go up too fast, and then they come down too fast as well, right? They don't stay on the top very long. That's one of the things that I really don't care about, like going up fast.
Yeah. I think that comes from the whole venture capital culture of how quickly can we grow, and then out of the 100 businesses we invest in, maybe 2 are going to succeed, and let's just see how fast we can get to that decision. But look, I think to your point though, it really comes down to purpose, right? Like if you show up to work each day without a purpose, for instance, I had a buddy of mine, he recently sold his company earlier this year, and he's, again, it's somebody about my age, mid-30s, and he's set for life. He doesn't have to work again if he doesn't want to. But so I asked him one day, I'm like, what do you want to do next? And he's like, honestly, man, it's like I thought I was going to have this big, like, resounding vacation trip and jumping up and down with joy. And he's like, I've never felt so much despair in my entire life, and I'm still feeling this today. The day that I had all that money show up in my bank account, I lost the purpose. Yeah. And he's like, I'm still searching for what that purpose is. And I think that's where, if everybody were to look at their company, their business as a motivator, give yourself a reason to show up, a reason big enough that it holds the dreams and motivations of everybody else in your company inside of it. So as an example, if you want to grow your company to X, Y, and Z, make sure that fits the goals of your team. If they want to be a project manager or an estimator one day, make sure that you have a spot to put them in, right? This is all, it's all sounds really like foo-foo and these soft KPIs that we need to focus on, but this is 90% of running a business, guys. It's the soft stuff that really makes up a lot of your overall success.
Exactly. No, I think you nail it right there. That's exactly how it is. And I feel like we just, in this industry, it's a great industry. Painting is, as I see in some of your marketing, is like painting is not like air conditioning, where if your air condition breaks down, you have to fix it right there, especially if it's too hot or it's too cold.
It's a want, not a need. That's right.
Exactly. You have a huge bill of electrical for some reason, your electricity, and you don't have enough money to paint a room and pay the bill. Obviously, I encourage yourself to pay the electric bill, because you're going to need those to run your refrigerator and all those appliances, right? But it's like painting is very necessary to, bring nice places, create more healthy places, beautiful places. So even though, like you said, it's a want, but it's still necessary. And a lot of times we just need to understand it, right? And approach it with the right mentality. Like, if somebody hires me, and give it your best. Get a wow. Instead of a review, get a wow from the customer. That should be your goal. Get a wow. Don't focus so much on the review that maybe the customer is not like so happy, but I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna write in a quick review. But I feel like a lot of times, a lot of my customers, honestly, I mentioned to give me a review. They forget, because they have a life. A lot of them, they don't give me a review, but they keep telling their friends, like how happy they are working with us, the experience. We were, one of the things that I hear a lot from them is like, our crew is very polite, very respectful. So they bring that a lot in conversations. So to me, like when you mentioned, this is the point that I wanted to get. When you mentioned that it's not about the money, it's about the purpose. I always feel like if I was after money, I'll probably be doing something that I can get a lot of money. But but honestly, I feel the same way. And when people tell me, this guy has already got so much money, why can he not retire yet? And he should be spending his money in these nice beaches, this good places. And I'm like, well, because he's not doing it for the money.
Nope.
It's his goal, his purpose. That's his life. That's his mission. Like Elon Musk, it's like, do you want to do the things that he does every single day? Go through his, I mean, most people would love to have their money, but no one, I mean, I wouldn't want to live in his shoes every single day for the things that he goes through. And this goes to any or most of those business people, that they keep just going through, bringing good solutions to the world. And they already have all the money. They're never going to finish the money, but they're not doing it for the money.
Nope.
This is their mission. This is what they enjoy doing. And so that's a very clear example that many of us, we don't do it for the money. Briefly, I'm going to mention one of the things that when I was going to start my company, after reading the book that I told you, I sit down and decide, I always have to sacrifice something. I know I have to give something in return for my compensation, what they're going to pay me. But what? Coming from seeing a couple of my bosses, people that I work for getting divorced, and they have a lot of money, but they can hardly talk to their sons. They have bad relationships. I was like, I don't want that. I mean, if I start a company, a business, and I have to destroy my family, I said, I'm doing it for my family, not to destroy or hurt my family. So right there, I put it down in a notepad. I'm not willing to sacrifice my family. I'm doing this for my family altogether, or I don't do this. So my mission became, I want to be on my kids' events. This is my first project. I just want to make enough to pay the bills, but my first goal is to be on my kids' life. Every single night, I want to sleep in my house, not in a hotel because I have to travel a few hours and stay over there. I said, I turned down so many projects, traveling around the country, painting malls for this company. They really wanted me. And I said, no, because I want to sleep in my house every single night. And they said, we'll fly your family, wherever we are, every 2 weeks. We bring your family so you can see it. I said, not enough. I said, I don't want one day hear my kids or my wife say, the reason we're not together, not this close, is because you were never on their life. You were never around. I've seen that too many times. So I said, my goal is to raise my kids, be around them. And later in life, if I get time, we'll see what happens. And I did that. I raised my family. My company is not a huge company, not because I don't know how, because my priorities were different. Now, one of my sons worked with me, and the other one is getting ready to go to the Air Force. So now I tell them, it's time. It's time. If we're going to do something, we're going to grow the company, it's time. Because I don't feel now like I'm not going to be yelled by my wife, hey, the kid, you missed the game. So they're grown up, and now it's like I feel that I have the freedom to do whatever we want. Not I want. We want as a family.
One of my business advisors, whenever I was first, so I have like 5 different business coaches. I just collect them like Pokemon cards. One of them, whenever I was first talking to him, he asked why I was getting into business, like what the end goal was. And, he mentioned the fact that when he was early on in business, he's like a doctorate in MBA, whatever. And he mentioned that some of his early investors that he was talking to way back in the day, he would ask the same question to them. And, they'd have all these audacious goals of like, $200 million, whatever. And he said the one that stuck out to him, the most was a gentleman. I think it was, don't quote me on this, but I think it was the guy who either started or got involved with IBM in the early days.
Okay.
Had said that I want to run a business that my adult children would be proud of me. So his children were kids at the time. And his main goal was understanding the fact that the only people who are going to remember how hard you worked are the kids in your family. And if you can't run a business and ensure that by the time they're adults, that they are proud of the man that you were back then and the man that you still are today, then what's the point? So I very much stand firmly on that same ground as well. If I can't, wrap up my workday and go downstairs and make sure that I have the energy to spend time with my kids, what am I doing? That's the, you can have different answers to that. And some people have different priorities, and that's fine. Money is not one of those.
Everybody's different
for me. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So Israel, we've gone deep into some rabbit holes here, and this has been a great conversation. I always like to ask one question to anybody that we have on here, and that is, what's your greatest insight? If you had one thing that you could stand on top of the roof and just scream from the rooftops for every business owner to possibly hear that they could benefit from, what would that be?
I feel like respect yourself. Respect yourself, because if you don't respect yourself, believe me, what reason other people will have to respect you? I feel like if you don't respect yourself, you exposing your family to be disrespected, because when they call you as a contractor, like Tom says, right? If you just go running and you're available to whoever wants your time and you just giving it to them, well, those people eventually not gonna respect you. So respect comes from knowing your boundaries, what's most important to you. So I feel, even like we discussed pricing, I feel like if you do not have a clear picture of what your value is, even when you're gonna charge for your labor, you're disrespecting yourself, and mostly are disrespecting your family, because when you're not making enough money and your wife is worried and your kids don't have enough, that's your fault. That's because you're allowing this to happen. And to me, so to your question is, I think it starts with you. You have to respect yourself, because if I see that you respect yourself, respect your time, respect your employees, respect your family, believe me, I want to be your friend. I want to work with you, because to me, that's a great person that knows what he wants, a person that is going to be great influence in my life. But if somebody don't have respect for themselves, I don't want to be around the people. As a customer and as a person in the community. So I will say that respect.
Love it. Israel, you've been great here. For anybody else listening in that may be interested in having a conversation on here, please go to basecoatmarketing.com/podcast. Israel, again, I do appreciate your time today.
Well, me as well, man. I enjoyed this conversation. And also, my podcast is In for Value. So anybody in Spanish or English wants to reach out, just send me an email, info@westprosons.com, and we'll sit down and discuss more things that people now got these ideas in their head, want to add more, I'm welcome. I'm welcome to that.
Awesome. And Israel, would you mind repeating that email address one more time?
Yes. info@westprosons.com.
Awesome. Highly recommend anybody that want to speak with Israel, go shoot him an email. Great man. Israel, thanks again.
Thank you, my friend. You have a great day.
You too. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us on that episode. I hope you guys enjoyed that chat as much as I did. Now, listen, if you guys are hungry for more conversations like this, go swing by our website. It's basecoatmarketing.com/podcast. And finally, we are very open to feedback. So if we haven't covered a topic or there's someone you want us to chat with, please let us know. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss out on the next conversation for painters.